Hey there, football fans. Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks diving into Carolina football, the SEC, NCAA, college football final, everything that goes with all of that. We're bringing you the unbiased, unfiltered, always reasonable takes to keep you coming back for more. We're missing that guy this week, but I'm your host, Mike Ritchie, class of '06. With me is my co host, Sam Niedermeyer, class of '06 as well. There he is. Busser is out this week. This storm in South Carolina, ice, snow has got him a little mixed up. So we hope everybody's okay. And I'm sure we'll have him back soon. He might be a little frosty, but we've got a good one today, regardless, with me and Sam. What a final, right? We're going to get into that.
Oof.
Pretty awesome stuff, right, Sammy?
Oh yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. We'll debate the merits just kind of the football playoff right now that we have the whole thing and we can kind of see it and what it all was, all the ups and downs. And then we'll recap some NFL action. So don't forget to like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, especially Instagram and X. We have a presence as well. So you can get all our new content and some other, smaller videos, memes and stuff we come up with. But otherwise, get comfy, get warm, and let's get started with this week's episode of Alumni
Game!
Cox.
Game!
Cox. All right, Gamecock fans, you're wondering why I'm wearing this hat, unless you're only listening. But we talked about last week getting into this final, and Buster and I both picked Notre Dame, and we both said we would wear orange if they did not prevail. And look at me wearing orange in my sad orange hat.
I'm starting to think that's the real reason Buster's not here, Mike, is because he didn't want to show off his. Well, he said he didn't have any orange. So then and then we confirmed at our pre-production meeting or our production meeting, whatever you want to call it, that he had that the orange on his hunting hat.
Yeah.
I just don't, but he wasn't wearing it, remember? He just showed it
Well,
to
I mean,
us.
it'll toll, right? It's like a red shirt year. It'll toll. So he'll have to do it next week. And if we don't see this hat, we got to find this hat. But more importantly, we don't have
He
any
might,
warm gin, which is nice. We're
that's
doing
true.
other things. Even though Buster could probably use some of that warm gin, it's pretty cold in South. Well, it's cold everywhere.
4 inches in Charleston and Monk's Corner. Can you believe that? 4 inches in those places.
It's like some
Unreal.
kids are getting something
Unreal.
that most people there never get,
Yeah,
And
man.
in Florida, like northern Florida, and what did my wife see?
Louisiana's getting some
But yeah,
too.
first blizzard warning ever in Louisiana. Like
It's wild.
ever. Like since when? The cavemen? Like no, since whatever, since before football though. So anyway, so
Wild, wild storm.
this college football final. I mean, it was kind of like everything and more, right? I mean, I don't love seeing the same teams every year, so that Notre Dame could get back in here was great. That it was this sort of tournament that is new was great. It's a shame because I thought Notre Dame was working towards it, but Ohio State, man, they've been here before, they've done it, they're doing it again. It's their sixth national title, their first since 2014, which is a bigger gap than I would have thought, right?
Yeah, those Urban Meyer years.
Yeah. And they jump out to this huge lead, right? I mean, I kind of thought early, Notre Dame countered right away, so it was sort of like score, and I was like, okay, shootout. But yeah, then when Ohio State, every time they get the ball, they're scoring, and Notre Dame isn't, it felt like it was getting harder and harder for them to kind of hang and have a chance to win. Just Ohio State, just talent everywhere all the time.
Well, we said it last week, man. They just got firepower everywhere on the offensive side of the field. I think Howard started like 13 for 13, what the announcers said. I think Ohio State only punted once. They scored the first four drives, and then I think they actually might have scored a field goal. Might have been on their fifth drive, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
When you score at the end of the first half, and you score at the beginning of the second half. I mean, that's like a 14-point swing, and that's what we saw, and that's kind of where the game was. And then credit Notre Dame though; they came back. Riley Leonard completed some passes. I think they scored that
Yeah, I
touchdown,
was
1 for 2.
impressed with him. Like they even
He's
said,
just tough. He's just a tough guy.
I mean, they were saying like, oh, over under on him running on the game is like 15. He runs 8 times in the first drive, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
wow, look at this guy, like just sort of willing it willing it into a thing, right? Kind of like we've seen Lenoris do, right? Just
Yep.
go off running and find it and just decide that you're going to power through somebody to get it. But that's your quarterback, and you're playing the whole game like that from the first drive against Ohio State. That's going to hurt. I'm sure he was hurting the next day.
Oh, he's gonna he had some bruises, that's for sure. The next day, I gotta give him credit though, because he stuck in there. He's a tough guy. That entire Notre Dame team is pretty tough, to be honest. And their game plan, I mean, it was just kind of just a lot of continue with Riley Leonard, wear the defense out. And it started working in the second half because they score a touchdown, get two, then they score another touchdown and get two. So
Yep.
it's looking at 31-23, a one-score game.
The twos, right? That's what does
Yeah,
it. That's
it
the
was
extra momentum
smart.
that you need.
Yeah.
Everybody sees special teams doing it. I mean, that's like a special teams play, and they're red zone plays, so they're touchdown plays. Like,
Yeah.
um,
And then
you
you got
start hitting those twos, and it feels like you're on that heater, like at the craps table, and you just got to keep throwing, right?
their running game, right? Their offensive line was just they were in a heater. Like they were blocking for Riley Leonard. They were blocking for that fast running back. I forget his name. And they were blocking in the pass protection too. They were just, the offensive line was on fire, and they were just imposing their will. And then you get it like midway through the fourth. I don't know if you remember this, but here comes Mitch Jeter, and everyone, 4th and 9, I think it was 4th and goal from the 9. And a lot of controversy of people saying like, oh, like Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame should have gone for the goal line, but I don't think they would have gotten it because their offense was set up for 4 to 5 yards at a time. You know what I mean? I don't know if they would have gotten it. Unfortunately, Mitch Jeter misses the field goal, so like that just makes the decision worse. I was actually okay with the field
It
goal.
was a doink, right?
Yeah, off the cross.
Yeah, come on, that's
off the
upright.
upright.
It's not just a miss.
It's off at the. It was heart wrenching if you're a Notre Dame fan.
There's like
I was okay with that
awesome
choice
field.
though.
There's a range of field goal opportunities, and horrible miss is one thing. Shank is below miss, really.
And I
But
found
I
it
feel like
ironic.
doink is somewhere else because you can doink it in, or you can doink it
can
out, or
doink
you can
it
doink
in.
off the crossbar.
And yeah, you can get the rim help off the crossbar. That's for sure. You can hit the upright and doink it so it comes back in.
I went to a game a few years ago at Foxborough, Titans at Patriots, which is interesting now with Vrabel. But 2 doinks. Titans had 2 doinks in that game right as it started to snow very peacefully. It was a pretty awesome game. It was cold, but it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, those are nice.
But 2 doinks in one game.
Quiet snow.
I should be so lucky, But yeah, shout out
And
Mitch
just
Jeter.
when-
We love him. He'll
Just
make
when we were talking about
goals.
Mitch Jeter last week too, remember we were like talking about, oh, watch it be a tie game near the end, and he nails a field goal. I think Buster jinxed him, and that's why he's not on.
I mean, look, if you're a Jeter, you want that opportunity.
I know.
And you want to be there to be doing that, and you want to make it, and you just didn't make it. So
Poor Mitch, man. Poor Mitch.
He's going to have to prove himself a little bit again and see. Because remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Notre Dame for years now always takes a portal transfer for 1 year at kicker. So they're up again. And what are they going to do? Unless they've been farming someone up that can replace the great Mitch Jeter, which
I'm sure they'll get someone in the transfer.
I know, but it's just interesting where you go for a portal, and we'll talk more about that next week with some more portal action happening. But what else in this game, Sam? Like what was when you stood up, and you thought your heart got going a little bit?
Well, Jeremiah is a bulldog. Jeremiah Smith is an absolute dog. I mean, yeah, he only had about 6 catches or whatever it was, 80 yards, 82 yards, stat wise, right? Doesn't really pop out, but that 3rd and 11, the conversion, nice lob by Howard, but that was Jeremiah Smith getting a beautiful read on it, adjusting in the middle of the pass, making that catch. I thought that was that just flipped the whole field, because right then Notre Dame had momentum. They had a lot of momentum, and Ohio State wasn't doing a whole lot. I think they were, maybe Notre Dame was covering Jeremiah Smith pretty well, but boy, he just comes up with big plays and big opportunities and big games.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of felt like when Ohio State did that, I was kind of like, that felt risky. Like that felt like, do you really need to be doing that? And because it kind of felt like the game was in hand the way they were playing, just from a coaching standpoint. But
no, I gotta disagree with you there. Go ahead. We'll go over it. We'll go over it.
Oh,
you go ahead.
Just go ahead. Talk amongst yourselves, because it's cold outside.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Because it's so cold. Someone busted out that George Costanza meme, where he's got the huge coat.
The vortex.
That's how cold it is outside right now.
You got the big vortex where he knocked over all the wine bottles. It's all the puffy
That's great.
vortex.
So anyways, so look, I just thought, throwing the ball like that late, like risking a pick or something else happening, and where you're moving the ball, like I just didn't think you had to do that. Did I think it's like risky? No. Run your offense, but I like that Ohio State was going for it. They weren't mucking
Yeah.
around out there. They were like, we want this, we want to finish this, we want to like get first downs and move the ball and finish this game, and I
That
felt like
that
they did.
that might have been Ryan. If you made that call, I don't know. That might have been Ryan Day's best play call of the entire second half.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, look, they were getting stopped on 2 or 3 straight drives. They hadn't scored since the third quarter. They squandered, what was it, 31-7, right? They squandered a
Defense giving up a
24-point
lot.
lead, and then they had given up two two-point
Yeah, the
conversions.
deuce
So
deuce.
that
They
can
call that the
demoralize a
deuce deuce.
defense. So there's going risky right there. You got to assume that Notre Dame's just gonna. What was there? There was probably about 4 minutes. I think there was like 3.5 minutes left in the game at that point, something like that. Right then and there, you flip the field. You're able to run it to first down. Excuse me, you're able to run it to the 2 minute warning, and then if you get a first down, it's game over. They ended up kicking a field goal, and I just thought like the perfect timing to flip the field. Really was.
Yeah. Do you
Although I
think on
mean,
the
Notre Dame
flip
was hot.
side,
Their offense was hot.
just as a concept that like Notre Dame wasn't meeting Ohio State with that like not going for the TD for the field goal, like you got to kind of meet the other team. Ohio State's
Yeah,
going for it. They're throwing the ball. They're running their offense and spreading the field, and Notre Dame's over here not going for the touchdown and then missing the kick,
yeah,
So it's kind of like that alone is probably enough to lose it if that's the way things are going to go. Like every time Ohio State's going to go for it, get it. Every time you're not going to go for it and you're going to fuck it up. Okay, that's how you lose games pretty quick. But like I wouldn't say that was the case, but I didn't really get the fake punt thing. Like if you're going to go for it, go for it.
yeah,
Um if you got a good play and you got a playmaker there that you've been coaching them fine, like a special teams player that all of a sudden can catch and run and no one's really seen that, and you have that for the championship and you've never used it, yeah, sure. Kind of reminds me like San Francisco does with Kyle Juszczyk, and everyone's like, use like no one uses fullbacks, right? But when you do, it can hit.
yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of like that tight end fullback area of the
Right.
field and position, and you could use them on special teams. But I don't know. Kind of harkens back to the South Carolina play we were talking about.
A
Throwing
couple
it
weeks
across
ago,
the end
yeah.
zone and doing the thing. If you know something and you have something, sure. But otherwise, I don't know that you muck around.
Yeah, I understood it at the time. I get the sense that Ohio State also understood it at the time because like Ryan Day kind of probably called in saying, hey, they might be maybe special teams coordinator called it, I don't know, saying like, hey, that this might be a fake. So good job, Ohio State snuffing it out. But um, it did turn into the kind of because Ohio State had just scored another touchdown. So if I remember correctly, that's the drive that led to a field goal. So all of a sudden it goes from a 28-7 game to a 31-7 game.
Yeah, and then it's kind of
Short field.
unattainable.
Yeah, I mean, it did open it up to now from a 3 to a 4 point game. So I guess it was with three point,
I mean, good
2 point
good for
conversions
them
would
though.
tie it.
Like we talked about this, and we'll get into it in a minute when we do the playoff overall. But like their run is pretty cool. Not only did they win a national title here, but they ran through the college football playoff after losing to Michigan, and we'll talk about why that might be so important. But and then after a year where people were on Ryan Day. And you might, if you're an Ohio State fan, you still might be saying like this team could be even better with someone else, but that's not the point. He's the coach. He's
Yeah,
been the coach. The system is there. It's working. And who would have thought? But who cares about beating Michigan? It ultimately was a part of your story in winning not only the national title, first one since 2014, but the college football playoff, the inaugural first whatever. We had no idea what this was going to be, and they took it, and that's pretty cool. Because the only other new thing I see like that is like the in-season tournament with basketball, and it's like, who cares?
yeah, yeah. I get the sense that any normal Ohio State fan would have been okay if you told them at the beginning of the year, like, hey, you're not going to beat Michigan, you're not going to win the Big Ten, but you're going to win the national championship in the 12-team playoff. I think I don't know. I don't know a whole lot of Ohio State fans personally, but I get the sense that like they'd be okay with that. And so I think that's why like, and let's face it too, like I think they were the best team throughout the playoffs. I mean, they
Yeah,
outscored opponents by 46 points.
Yeah. You were big on
So
Tennessee going in, but
I
Tennessee
was,
just
man, and
underperformed. Yeah.
I could not have been more wrong. Well, I mean, like plus like momentum wise, right? Coming into the playoff, like Ohio
All
State's
right,
coming
so
off
we're
that
doing it now. We're
devastating.
just going
Yeah,
right into the playoff
I
here. We
mean,
had a segue plan, but F that noise.
yeah, I,
Yeah, look, hey, just to reset real quick, Sam, we like what we got. It was a little weird. I think my hot take is that the second round was weird, right? Every favorite, and I feel like Oregon got shafted, like really got shafted. And maybe they weren't the team we thought, but they didn't really that layoff into the second round just felt wrong for college
yeah,
teams. You don't want that much time off. But overall, that the last two rounds, to get to the final and the final, like awesome,
hmm
really awesome, especially this final. I do feel bad for Notre Dame. I have a friend who is a Notre Dame and a Detroit fan who will remain nameless just
Oh,
cause. But
yikes!
oh man, losing both of those in
That's
a
a tough
week.
weekend. That's a
Oh
tough
yeah.
weekend right there.
So, but I don't love Ohio State, but yeah, Ryan Day did it, and that's a solid team, and they're going to be right back in the mix. Both these teams will be. I think I'm even more with Notre Dame because, Buster made me a believer. He talks a lot about Freeman and not Morgan Freeman, but and I've seen this team come together, and it's a different Notre Dame than I've seen. I remember that Notre Dame that got waxed in the national championship. I
Yeah,
don't remember them winning a ton of huge games other than like beating Southern Cal once in a while or some of the random teams they played. I was looking stuff up, and it was so random that I forgot. Now I forget who it was. But in the pandemic year, since Notre Dame had to go to the ACC, they actually had a player who won the ACC Player of the Year. That's not possible ever
the
again.
2020 pandemic year.
And I can't believe I'm blanking on that name because I did look it up and I don't have it in my notes. I'm a bad host. No, no. But yeah, that just things like that are possible. And like, who would have known that you could go play for Ohio State, lose to Michigan, play in the college football final, and win that, and the first time ever, and be a consensus national championship? That's like storybook, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, so more props to that. I just the only not that I even want a tweak or anything like that. But there are takes that this is more than we need, right? I specifically sort of referenced Michael Wilbon article where he talks about this just being about greed, that you really only need, 8 teams, 12 is too many, and it's just about being greedy, adding games and creating revenue. And while I don't think he's necessarily wrong, I can't fully argue that 12 teams is too many because other than that second round glitch where all the favorites lost and some of the best teams in the country were not prepared, it was pretty good. And we see that in March Madness too a little bit. Some teams that aren't prepared or get got, and that's where upsets happen.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, Michael Wilbon, like I think he does a good job on
oh, we
Inside the
respect him a
NBA.
lot, both of us do. Yeah.
But it's kind of hip. I mean, I don't like the fact that he's calling people out for being greedy, and he like jumped from like Washington Post to make $8 million at ESPN, which I would do the exact same thing to be fair, right? So like calling, but calling conferences greedy, or, I mean, this is, come on, man. Like let's be real here. We know what talks in this world. So I got no problem with the whole like
Point
if it
counterpoint
isn't.
here. This is like crossfire with the two of us.
I'm just saying, like, come on, like, be real about it, man. Like,
Yeah, no,
this is
I feel
come
that.
on,
I
man.
just
Like,
think he does have a platform, and if this does feel true, and he's the only one who's going to say it, okay. Are you right? Is a little bit
no,
hypocritical? Yeah, sure, 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 sure.
I actually like
But
the 12-team playoff. I'm with you. I do think it's a good amount now. It might be expanded to 14 teams within 2 years,
yeah,
right?
see,
Like,
I don't want
why not?
that. That feels
Like
greedy. That's when greed comes
we just
in.
got used to this. Now we got to move to this.
I
Like, come on,
know.
it's just I got too many things going on. I
Yeah,
got so
that's
many
what
friends.
I'm
I got to keep
thinking.
track
Like,
of them.
even if that second round is where I have a problem, right? Like, specifically,
Yeah.
it just felt like every team that had that bye got shafted with a bye. You
Do
don't
you
want
know?
that bye. Not in college.
I was thinking about this, right? So on that second round, and we all know like those were probably like the least we were shocked by the outcome of those games, and all the higher seeds, well, I guess the lowest seeds lost. And we had this interesting talk about rest versus rust, but I'm starting to kind of think a little bit also that those teams in the second round just weren't good. Like Arizona State was clearly not as good as the 5 through 8 teams, right? Clemson, they weren't even a top 12 on people's radars. I mean, when you win the ACC, what does that mean when you're up against like an Ohio State team that finishes third in the Big
Yeah,
Ten,
SMU. I mean,
right? Like,
again, we talked about this a lot on the show, and it's kind of nice because I want to say penultimate because I don't want to say ultimate, but
right,
all
right.
the stuff we've been talking about is coming together here. Conference realignment. SMU comes in out of nowhere and all of a sudden gets a good schedule and they're doing their thing. Like different teams coming in. Texas is in the SEC now, so it's a different animal and you got to look at them differently. Like it's all of that tees up to the playoff where, yeah, there were some oversights. I mean, Sam, we were barking or crowing that we should be in this thing. And after that Illinois game, I did not think we should be in this playoff. But I also would not say, were we worse than SMU? Were we worse than Clemson? No. But it kind of felt like, yeah, some of those teams shouldn't have been in it, but they won their way in and you're allowed to. But also we had to figure this out. Now, coaches, teams, athletic directors can look at this tournament and know what it is and plan for next year. And that's why I don't want to tweak or add more teams for next year. Leave it at 12, leave it the way it is. Let's establish something where we can play through it and get Ohio State this year, someone else next year, someone after that. Give me college. Give me 4 years before you change it again.
Yeah, I agree. It should be
Graduate with a degree from
the
the college
same
football
amount of years
playoff
that you're in
university.
college is how long you should wait before you tweak anything. I actually like that. I'm on board with you on that one. I think that should be the
4 more
standard
years.
going here. Yeah,
4 more years.
4 years.
No, I'm not getting into all that.
I
But we
think
got something there. We got to something there. That was pretty good.
100%. I do like that. I also, to your point there, I think that, a lot of times you'll see like we want to be in there, right? Alabama wants here. There's a lot of teams right in the middle. I think that's just going to be the case as long as you have a ranking system every year.
Yeah,
Right?
and if that's what it is, if that's part of the playoff,
whatever team it is, there's going to be them.
I got my popcorn right here, and I'm ready.
Eat it.
I'm ready.
It kind of reminds me of the competition game show Survivor a little bit, right? Like you might not necessarily you probably have your two like top guys or whatever, top popular people, and they're going to be up there. But then like the medium ones just like all like work against each other, and that's like what we're seeing. The medium ones just eating each other in this college playoff. We might see that. It might be like
it's like a big fight night, right?
Yeah.
And it's like those are the undercards, you know. And like how often does the undercard usurp the title card? And sometimes it does, right? We were talking about that Jake Paul Tyson fight, and we thought the ladies match before was one of the most brutal matches I've ever seen.
That was the best fight.
Excellent match.
That was the best fight of the night.
Right. Where I know why the title fight was the title fight. It wasn't a great fight, but it was the fight that everyone wanted to see.
Yeah.
Did you see something there? Like Mike's getting sued by someone who says he breached a contract and he might lose his money already. I was like, oh, Mike, damn.
I don't love that because I think Mike Tyson's redemption story is truly great. So I don't love to hear that, and I don't want to comment because I haven't read anything about it. But as soon as I do,
basically sounded like a termite crawling out, like
one of those
typing at Mike, and it was just going to go away. But you never know.
I kind of figured that might have been the case, man. There's a lot of that nowadays.
Speaking of which, though, stuff crawling out of the woodwork here. So I mean, look, we'd say we like to play off and keep it that way, whatever. The conferences could change things, right? Some notes coming out about the ACC considering some changes, right? Almost like we need to beef up our conference game. We need to make our conference game more important, and we might have our own little playoff. Like, oh, the number one gets a little bye and the other two play, like, so you can go into the playoff. So that will be interesting to see if conferences decide to like orbit like in space around college football playoff and change. I hope not. I think that's confusing, but hey, they will be. If Notre Dame can stay independent and Texas can go to the SEC, like anything can happen.
So the two big things I think you're talking about there, right? Number one, the ACC is changing so that there'd be a 2 versus 3. The number one seed we get a bye, and then 2 versus 3 would play the champion, right? In the ACC, that's okay. That's insane to me. That's I mean, we know why they're doing this. Not only
especially for the ACC. I mean, look,
they need to.
People are going to jump on us and say, "Oh, the SEC. How good were they in the postseason?" Okay, all right, yes,
yeah.
But most of the season is played in the regular season, and you earn the right to be there for the end, and you're coaching for that. So, okay. But at the same time, I guess the positives for me are like Boise State or somebody can go to the Pac-12 and maybe make the Pac-12 great again or something, the Big Ten or Big 12 could take on some mid-majors that have done well, like maybe TCU wants to move up a conference or or maybe teams that have flashed, Appalachian State wants to
Yeah.
up their program. Like, because the money is there and colleges will now be able to find the NIL money, who knows who's going to get what and what states want to invest. I mean, North Carolina would be the best place, I would think, because the only pro football team is the Panthers, right? And the closest other one is the Titans. So you're just investing in college sports in the state. And I mean, obviously Texas, right? Because there's so many football teams. I
Yeah.
mean, we even found, what was that conference we were talking about that was all tiny Texas teams? Um,
I
oh man,
for,
I gotta
I
stop
forget.
referencing
I
stuff I
forget.
don't
Yeah.
remember.
I think what's interesting too, right, with all those changes, and you think about but from what I understand, right, starting in 2026, and you talk about some of these teams like Boise State coming over to maybe
Mm.
reform the Pac-12 or the Pac-10,
Yeah, just an
um,
idea. Yeah.
I mean, it's something to think about. So in 2026, the bulk of like the college football playoff will be run by the SEC and the Big Ten. So I mean, you have most of like the people from both of them boards are mostly going to be from those schools, and so and the
I mean, the
conference, excuse
ACC is
me.
pretty big too, right?
So
So probably the
yeah,
ACC.
but if you expand, right, and you go to 14 teams, right, in 2026, there's a higher likelihood that it'll be a Big Ten and an SEC team. So then in this instance, maybe this is a preemptive strike by the ACC, knowing that in 2026 their national relevance in football is probably going to be, if it isn't bad already, it's going from bad to worse.
Huh.
So that's the only thing I thought about with them making that move. But I think but it's also, it doesn't make sense
Yeah,
because,
for football, I mean, ACC is still a little more concerned with basketball,
yeah,
obviously. I
I
mean,
mean, they're always
if
gonna be a
you were
basketball
to rank
conference.
them, right? I mean, Duke, North Carolina, even NC State, like a lot of those other teams in the ACC, Syracuse, like a lot of teams that were um, Big East, that always make
Yep.
the tournament. So yeah, there's that to consider when you have both sports. I mean, for us too,
Yeah.
like we have basketball teams that win championships, and we go to March Madness. The men go every now and then, but and we'll actually talk about them a little bit later. But yeah, I think we can kind of put a pin in that. I do want to hear what Buster's going to say, so he can critique us next week when he's wearing his orange, and I'm sure, he might even be critiquing when we air. So I'll talk to him about that.
I hope
But
so, man. I need some
I
fashion
think
tips from him.
we'll level up for a second into the NFL and the divisional round, which was another really fun weekend of football. We ended up with Eagles over the Rams in a game that came down to it. Commanders upsetting the Lions, which was like bonkers, and we'll talk a lot more about that man, Jaden Daniels. Bills holding off the Ravens, which was another sort of heavyweight fight. Just feels like Jared Allen's just getting it done.
Yeah.
He's just gonna push it through, and I kind of don't mind because every time I look at one of these graphics, the Bills are one of the only teams that have never won. Or
I know.
and
They're kind
I
of America's darlings right now
yeah, and I
in
was
a
kind of
weird
hoping
way.
something like that would happen, like Detroit or Buffalo, or the Chargers. I didn't think Harbaugh was going to do it in his first year, but to see someone in it who hasn't even been there before, which is funny to say because like I was looking at a chart that said like, oh, the last time everybody won, and the Niners, it's been a while, right? Like the late '90s, but they've been there so much that it's like I don't really
Yeah,
want to
it's
see them there
true.
again because I don't want to see them choke again. And I think that would be the danger with the Bills
They were
if
there
the
in like
Bills get all the way
2014 or
there
whatever
and then
too.
lose another Super Bowl.
I know.
I mean, again,
I
we
know.
talked
And those
about it
fans are
next
so
year.
dedicated. Those fans are
You
so dedicated.
you want the chance, right, Sam? But if you know that every time you get there, you get waxed and it hurts so bad, like, do you really want that again? Like,
Now,
that's tough.
they've had some playoff losses here the last 3 or 4 seasons under Josh Allen, where
Chiefs.
mostly to the Chiefs, yeah, and some heartbreakers. One, remember that one where Mahomes like led them down the field with like 28 seconds left or something like that, and they got
Yeah.
like two or three plays off, and then I don't know who the kicker was, but he nailed a long field goal to beat the Bills. What was that, like a 2022 something like that? That was a heck
Yeah.
of a
No, I
game.
mean the Chiefs have taken to like owning, and just putting them down. And I kind of thought the Bills would be more well prepared. I kind of was thinking to myself, even if the Ravens win this game, they got the Chiefs next week, and I don't know if they're ready for that. And then when I saw Mark Andrews drop that 2-pointer, I was like, they definitely weren't ready if that was going to happen. And I like Mark Andrews, and I like what they're doing there, but I don't know. Something's not right when you have Derrick Henry and your leading wide receiver is a tight end, Isaiah Likely, and then you go to Mark Andrews at the end. You don't have high end quality wide receivers for Lamar Jackson, right? With Zay
Yeah.
Flowers out, there's no one out there with incredible hands. And Mark Andrews is getting older. 30 years old is not old, but in the NFL, it is an age, right? Can you believe Terry McLaurin's turning 30?
I feel like
I
he's
was
been.
like, I thought he was getting like 25. Like
I
I was like,
I was
this
I was gonna go
guy's
the
so good.
opposite way. I feel like he's been in the league for like 40 years.
Yeah, he has been there through ownership change, which
Yeah.
is a thing to experience if you're a player. Um, and then, hey, I didn't say it outright, but the Chiefs over the Texans. I mean, we're getting kind of sick of the way the Chiefs win and that the zebras are out there with like red in their stripes. But I try not to think about that too much. I mean, Mahomes plays the game a certain way. He
Yeah.
will run up on guys and make like he's going to run and then not run. And is that risky? And does that put defenders at a disadvantage? Yeah, everyone's talking about that till they're blue in the face. But those are the rules. Those are the rules they are now. Remember, Sam, you remember a few years ago when it was so much debate over what was a catch and what was not a catch, and
Hmm.
it was like so hard. I feel like football goes through that sometimes. And with Mahomes, it's just a thing right now. You can either play like Mahomes does or not. It's not a cheat code, but it looks like one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mahomes is a beast, an absolute beast, Mike. And the Chiefs are going for the first ever three-peat. They look really tough. They just find ways to win. The Bills looked a little, I mean, Josh Allen gets it done. They looked a little rusty on offense, right, last week, but those turnovers helped out. You make some good points on the Ravens in that Bills game, just to like kind of bring it back to that one, because I thought that was probably the well, aside from the Commanders, the second biggest surprise of the
Yeah.
weekend. And the Ravens, as good as they are offensively, and they got all those weapons, right? Like, I don't know what they're thinking by not giving it to Derrick Henry like
Yeah.
25 to 30 times a game. Like, he
Isn't
only
that
gets.
why you sat him a lot of the year? Isn't
I
that why
know
you did it?
he gets better in December and January. Like, it's just a proven fact. His
I
yards per carry
can't
go
even
up.
believe how fast he is, Sam. Like that's the thing I can't believe. He's big, he can hit, he can get through the first wave,
Yeah,
and then he hits this speed and he's just gone. And it's like, where is that coming from?
like,
Because
isn't that the reason you
he's like
brought the guy?
faster now than he's ever been. I
It's
don't
like,
understand
isn't
that.
that the reason you brought the guy in, is to convert 2-point conversions, right?
And you've
Like,
obviously coached everything well that you've gotten him into the offense and he feels comfortable. He's working
yeah,
the line's doing good work, and they're a great team. But like I just you can't go vertical if tight ends are your best wide receivers. Isaiah Likely basically is a wide receiver. He looks like one, he acts like one, he is one. The only reason they lost the game was because one of his toes. He's very good. Dude, that's the most precise thing with the blades of grass. Like that's
yeah,
crazy to move your body. I mean, it's like Lenoris. It's just you're a magician. It's unbelievable. But you shouldn't have to do that. There should be wide receivers. But they had injury. The Bills have had injury. The only thing about the Bills, like you said, it's like everyone's always like, oh, James Cook, he's just got it. Well, what if he doesn't get it? What if they stop the run? What's going to happen then? And they got Amari Cooper, but he hasn't really folded in. And they've had Kincaid and Knox, but they haven't been the back. Like, there's some holes. And like, I just think if the Ravens got exposed, the Bills might be the next ones to get exposed because
yeah,
you got to
maybe.
know that Andy Reid is watching them and studying them, and he's going to coach to it. It does seem like too like Pacheco is going to ramp up, right? I mean, he hasn't looked great. We know what he can do. Either that, or maybe Hunt turns it up into another game. He's going to be 30 as
I mean,
well, if you can believe that.
anybody could probably have a good game, right? Like, this is going to be a very sloppy game, in my opinion. I don't think it's
Yeah,
going to be like high scoring. Amari Cooper could end up having a good game. I think it's going to come down to Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, like it always does. Um, you know, the Chiefs right now, they're a 1.5-point favorite at home. The over under is 48. So like, if you're a 1.5-point favorite, Vegas usually gives 2 to 3, like, home teams a 2 to 3 point advantage in the spread, from what I understand. So that means
usually,
that that
especially
means
with the
that
bye week.
Vegas kind of thinks that the Bills win this game by 1 or 2. Is kind of
Yeah,
what it comes down
yeah.
to. So
Well, I
I
mean,
think
I'm
it is
in the
going to be a
sense you're
very, very
taking the
close
under,
game.
right? Because you said sloppy and
I'm
quarterback play.
thinking something like 24 to 19, or 23 to like 17, something like that.
I think it could escalate a little bit. I think if a team does make a mistake, that they could get it back. Because I know we've seen Josh Allen sort of willing it the way Jalen Hurts does, and like tush push type looking stuff. but he can wing it too. And I gotta think they do have some plays to someone like Amari Cooper or that rookie wide receiver. I'm blanking on his name. Um, and I do think it's close. I think it's more of a chess match, and it's coaches. Um, but I think it's a little more. I think it's like 28-25, and I think the Eagles. I mean, I think the Chiefs cover, and that gets it more. And I think maybe it hits the over because it has to escalate at a certain point. Like one team has to throw the ball to get back in it. Kind of like we saw with Notre Dame.
I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna say Kansas, Buffalo wins this weekend. I
All
think it
right, you
happens. I
and
think
me,
Joe
we're
Sean
up.
puts them through. I think a turnover or two will be the undoing. I know that Mahomes doesn't really turn the ball over a whole lot at home in the playoffs, but I just got a feeling that the wagons are the wagons are circling. The wagons are
All right,
circling for the
so
Bills.
what's that going to be? One gin shot to welcome Buster back in the fold?
Ooh, man, really need Buster for these
Or
wagers.
what else is there?
He's very
Face
good at
paint?
them.
We could do face paint.
He's- I'm trying to think like what would be like most humiliating for me. Maybe I'll
You laugh pretty hard at face
oh,
paint.
I'll shave and have a mustache
Oh, to shave, do a
because
mustache? All right.
I
Oh
hate the
man, I
mustache
guess I
look.
could. I can.
So I'll do a mustache if the Bills don't go like I'll take the Bills plus 1.5, and if
I
that
don't
doesn't
want to hang
hit,
a mustache on the Chiefs.
I'm hey you hey man, you bet whatever you want. I'm saying if the Bills don't win, I will shave and into a gross mustache for the next episode.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll meet you then if that happens and the Bills win, I will have a mustache, and if the Chiefs win, you will have a mustache, and that's what people will see next week if they choose to tune in to see that.
I'll take it. You know what else is pretty crazy to me is, obviously the Banders, right? Jane Daniels having from LSU, SEC guy, by member. Um, Unbelievable. He looks sensational.
Sensation.
The Commanders are going to be set for the next decade. It seems like, but I'm kind of surprised that how much the
So
Eagles
you're really
are.
on Dan Quinn too for the next decade.
Oh, I like him. I think, yeah,
Yeah,
why not?
right? Don't
Yeah,
you
I
like him?
think
I
he's
like
got
him a
that
little
moxie.
better than Dan Campbell. Like I want Quinn.
They got like kind of the similar mold, right? Like a little bit of a similar mold. I think Dan Quinn's teams, he's got more of that linebacker mentality, and then like and Dan Campbell's got that offensive lineman mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like
I
that's
did
what
notice something
that
funny.
comes
Like,
out in them.
when they do the sideline interview and they grab the coach like before they go on, whatever. Every other coach, like as they're done or when they're done, coach is running, right?
Yeah.
Quinn, he's just standing there, like, oh, we finished the interview.
Yeah.
I'm not aware. Like, I'm just gonna stay right here. And I was like, he's got all the time in the world. He's so relaxed. He's just chilling with the news anchor. I'm like, he like is ready for TV.
I like seeing
And
guys
I'm
that are
just
just like comfortable like that. They're just super comfortable, like doing their
super
thing.
comfortable. I remember when he was up in the booth for Dallas, and he'd have that backwards hat, and you'd see him, and he'd be vocal with his hands, and you could tell he was coaching. I mean, he's obviously on the sideline too, but seeing him on the sideline is something you get used to. Certain guys like that, like Steve Spagnuolo on the Chiefs. Like you just get used to seeing him with the Chiefs, but he's been on a lot of teams. Right? I mean, he even coached on the Giants for a while. Like but he's just a staple, and you love seeing him.
Mhm.
So, look, I think we have that game covered. We know what's happening there. What do you think on the other side? The high flying Eagles, perhaps?
Yeah, they opened as a 6-point favorite. Over under 47.5. This tells me Vegas thinks it's going to be, what does that mean? Like 27-20 basically is what they think the score is going to be. I'm listen, Washington is hot. They are the hot. I don't think they've lost in like 2 months. I think it's been like since around
It's
Thanksgiving
coming
that
together.
yeah, like
Eckler's
it's
healthy. Like they have
yeah.
some weapons.
Defenses look good. They brought what's his name over from they brought Lattimore over from or what's the guy's name from New Orleans that came over at the trade deadline, the defensive back.
Oh, yeah,
Marshawn
yeah, yeah.
Lattimore, is that right?
I think so. Yeah, that's right.
Um,
Yeah, nice to get out of New Orleans. They weren't doing much.
yeah,
But
I mean
also just
he's a good shutdown corner that like complements that defense really well too.
yeah. And then just the matchup, right? That like you say in rivalry games you're supposed to throw the record out, right? And
Yeah.
these teams are 1-1 against each other this year. So it is also a rubber match for the year. I mean, for a lot more marbles. And it just feels like that division is popping a little bit. That division is always competitive. When it's fully competitive. Obviously, the Giants weren't so much that this year. Neither were my Patriots, so I'm not trying to shout anybody out. And Dallas fell way off, and what Dallas is even doing at coach, I don't even know, right? All the best coaches are gone, so what are they going to do? And it feels like Dallas is the one who's floundering. If the Eagles and Washington go at it every year, because this feels like early for Washington, right? This is a bit of a surprise. They're the darling, and I like that. I think Jaden Daniels is ready for that. He seems like a great kid. I mean, we watched him on LSU, and he tore us up. Yeah, I'm fine with this. I mean, but Sam, don't you think it's more than that? Like new ownership, new coach, new player, new attitude. Like it's all new Washington. My buddies were
It
calling
just
them the commies.
Oh yeah, they all call them. I got all my friends are. Most of my friends are Commanders fans. They all call them the commies or the Manders.
The
Either one of those,
Manders.
commies or Manders. I mean, this is kind of like their success. I think the success so fast is just an indictment on Dan Snyder and how terrible of an organization he ran it from the from the top down. Like, and it's been no more evident than the immediate success and turnaround under Magic Johnson's his minority
Yeah, their
owner.
ownership group. Yeah.
That ownership group has it. They brought in the guy from that was the GM or the front office guy from and I'm blanking on names, but he came over from the Golden
Yeah, we're
State
going
Warriors.
deep here, up into
Well,
the
he came
front
over from the Golden
office.
State Warriors, and he's in the GM, so he's pulling the triggers. He makes great moves they seem to be not only just like efficient in terms of payroll, but like it works on the field. This is
And
this is an indictment
like
on
you
how
said,
terrible.
sweeping change happening immediately and producing results.
It's just an
Like,
indictment on how terrible and shitty of an owner Daniel Snyder was and it is as a human being. Like
literally, all they had to
like,
do was just
it's
clean up
terrible.
all the
Just
bad
get rid of
stuff.
him and all the rats left the sewer, and the sewer's clean now. Like this is
and
it's
now
cool to see this turnaround.
Now it will be easy for them to find partners with landowners and other stuff for a stadium, and
up a little
where
bit,
Dan Snyder
right?
couldn't even get a deal. No one would do a deal with him.
Yeah, they can fix that stadium up now and treat the fans a little bit better because the fans are coming to the games to spend money. They're spending invest back into the fans. They went through a lot of crap.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Dan
they
Snyder.
totally did.
A lot of crap with
Washington
Dan
been
Snyder.
bad for a while.
Yeah, he was like basically like a hostage.
We're all on Washington here. I do think with a week of preparation, where Jalen Hurts is not fully healthy, and you can work out what you're going to do on short yardage instead of a tush push. I think a little more practice with their wide receivers and take AJ Brown's book away and throw the ball. I think the Eagles can get this. I think it's lower scoring because it's a division game and it is a rubber match, and Washington knows how to play there, and the defenses will know a lot more. I think the elements could weigh in too, much like they did last week. And I'm just not willing to bet against Saquon at this point. I've seen him in person. I saw his first snap from scrimmage in the NFL at MetLife when he was a Giant. And I'll tell you, when I saw him take his first snap, the little hairs on my neck went up because I immediately was like,
you knew he was electric immediately.
I could see something I've never seen before.
He was electric at Penn State too, man.
And I'm telling you, the last few weeks, I've been seeing stuff I've never seen before. You know, I thought, I knew he could run behind that line, and I knew he could be successful. I didn't know he could be this successful. I was talking about Derrick Henry getting through the line and then taking another speed. I mean, Saquon barely has to do that, and he's gone to the house, And when he ran that one to the house last week, I definitely knew it was a bit of a dagger, but I didn't think it was over. I know a lot of people were like, oh, this game's completely over, but I want to give a little credit to the Rams. They played very well. I wasn't sure Matty Staff could do it at the end, and he did throw it a little wide. But credit to them. They'll be back next year. I know there's some questions about Cooper Kupp. Kyron Williams probably deserves a deal because he's still on his rookie deal. But Puka Nacua is the truth. Matty still got it. That back's fine. Kieran Williams was my best fantasy asset all year. So I know he fumbled, and that was rough. But he's from LA, like playing in the snow. What do you want? So
it was cool to see the snow games this weekend, seeing the snow.
Oh yeah,
and then
yeah. I remember when
the playoffs have been cool to see the snow games.
It's like always Philly in the snow. There was one with LaShawn McCoy, where it was like up to his knees, and he was running through the snow, and it was like knee height, and I was like, wow, that's insane. But hey, I put myself out here. I made a pick. What are you thinking for this? Are you going with your commies?
I think so, but not to win. I think the Eagles win something like 20-17 or 20-16. I think the Eagles win, but I don't think they'll cover. So I think Philadelphia wins maybe like something weird, like 19-15.
Yeah,
I don't know.
again,
It's
division
like
game.
it's
They know each other. Trick play
like
somewhere.
yeah.
Something that you
I
find
just I
somewhere.
get the sense that the Philadelphia offensive line is just gonna be a little too much and
Philly
too
randomly takes the
and they're just
safety
gonna
at the
pound it.
end to
Yeah.
just keep the ball away or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be like a weird scoring game, like with like a 4 point
Here's a
difference, 20 to
question.
16, 20 to 16, something like that.
If there's a prop bet, do you think there's any statistics for Kenny Pickett in this game?
Over under 3 plays.
Right, where he could have a couple of yards or a completed pass, right?
Oh man, I think Jalen will be fine, but it could be funny to see him.
I think at the end, if it's in hand or before the half, if Jalen's a little hurt and he's got to go into the half, Pickett come out for a few. They're actually pretty deep at quarterback on Philly. Even that third string played a few weeks ago. He was not terrible. He was not terrible. And I think, that's something to be said. I mean, almost every team has gone to their backup quarterback at some point during the year, including the Commanders who use Mariota as a runner, much like your Steelers did with Fields.
Yeah.
And there might even be stats for Mariota in this game. That's probably better. Probably.
I highly doubt that. I think Jaden Daniels was dealing with some concussion protocol stuff and was off the field. I don't see Mariota. I don't see anyone other than Jaden Daniels being on the field for the Commanders.
Fine.
That's it. I appreciate your hot take. I really do. And you were on a roll, and it killed me to kind of shut down your dreams and fantasies. But
well,
I think it's more
as
likely,
long as you die inside a little bit. Then it's fine.
I did die inside a little bit, but I think it's more likely to see Kenny Pickett on the field than Jaden Daniels, and I don't think the likelihood is very good for either of them.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I was just interested.
Maybe the odds makers I would love.
It felt like there were some running plays
to hear this.
Yeah, it felt like there were some running plays for Mariota, and then you just be ready for that. That he's a different animal running the ball than Daniels is going to be. But that's pretty much going to wrap us up there. And maybe one of us has a mustache next week, unless there's a tie or something.
Maybe, man. Maybe. You never know.
Then that's going to bring us to our closing remarks. We won't do our third down segment because we don't have our third leg of our tripod here. But we will get into sort of our winners and losers. And Sam, I'll let you take it.
We'll call this the win and loss segment. First win for this week, Ryan Day, man. Like, what a turnaround. What a redemption story, getting his first national championship. A 70-10 overall record, Mike. That means that when it's non-Michigan teams, Michigan, not Michigan State, but Michigan.
When it's just not Michigan.
69-5. 69-5. Unbelievable. Great job, Ryan Day. You are the winner of the week.
That's great. And you got a nickname for him or something new, like Riz Day or something?
The Daminator? I don't know. Like it's in,
I like Riz. Coach Riz. He's got Riz, I don't know.
That's for the special teams coordinator down in New Orleans who was the interim head coach. Like Riz down there. That was him. That's why I didn't want to take Riz. Right. Riz Day maybe.
Yeah,
Riz
or like
Day.
RY $signs.
Ryan Day, winner of the week.
Maybe just his name and lights is good. It sounds good, like Ryan Gosling, but it's Ryan Day.
Ryan Day.
My loss is really only a name because it was a loss. They played really well, but South Carolina basketball, men's basketball, is now 0-6 in the conference. But they are playing well. That game last night against Florida was really interesting. Number 5, Florida. They're at home in this snowstorm. They're winning the entire game, sometimes by double digits. And they near the end, they're just giving it away. And we miss a free throw. They get the ball, they score, they get up by 1, their first lead of the entire game while playing this game in South Carolina, and then they win. And it's like, it's frustrating, but it's also like it does feel like they can turn a corner at some point. It already feels like it's probably too late. But the game was a good atmosphere. It definitely was a positive atmosphere. I mean, in a snowstorm, it's a full building. Don Staley is there with this massive hat, dancing, and it was very entertaining.
I mean, it's great that
it doesn't end up the way you want.
Yeah, I love to see the stadium packed, but we talked about this right before our holiday show, man. Like the free throws are killing them this year. They're killing them. I think they're like, I mean, they're shooting like 68%. I mean, they're just getting killed in games because of the free throws. So if they want to turn it around, they can start by shooting 1,000 free throws a day. I tell you that.
Yeah, just stand at the stripe. Just don't move off the
That's
stripe.
practice, baby. Just get to the
Yeah,
free throw line. Just shoot free throws all day. Just do it.
yeah, yeah. Well, that is going to wrap us up for the week with our bits. But don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. We want to hear from you guys, especially if we missed something. We will have Buster back next week, and next week we will get into a Super Bowl preview after this divisional round. That'll be fun. I'm sure Buster can't wait for that. We'll have winter workouts, right, and a little bit of portal transfer news to talk about on campus while all these guys are seeing snow for the first time. And then we'll get a new segment we're bringing up called the new Gamecock of the Week, and we'll kind of profile a player every week, kind of like we did in our first few episodes about Lenoris. But we got some new guys on the squad. We got a running back. We got some interior linemen we want to talk about.
Both recruits and transfer portal. So we're gonna do both.
Yeah. And that'll lead us into future weeks talking about this Gamecock schedule that we have and potential for next season with that schedule and this college football playoff as we know it and reviewed it this week. So anything you guys want to hear about any of that, let us know. Carolina schedule next year, women's basketball coming up. Some of the new players on the squad, let us know. Could make it into the Gamecock of the Week or a future episode. Find us obviously on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, X, and the rest. And that's gonna take us out of another episode of Alumni
Game!
Cox.
Game!
Cox.